So I'm here with Colleen Cosmo Murphy, catching up on a very hot day in London at her lovely home. And just quite a strange starting place maybe for a chat, but I just wanted to start with a thank you. I just wanted to thank you not only for your amazing remix of Crazy Piece Stop Space Return, but also it's just been an absolute joy and a pleasure to not only work with you, but just to share some of your whole outlook and attitudes, not only to music but to life. And I really felt that it's been such a difference after a long time in the music business to really kind of understand what that meant to have that kind of, I think, that original loft ethos of love will save the day, love saves the day, and just the joy in the music. And I've really kind of, very much have felt that in our fairly brief time we've kind of known each other and worked on the remix.
Oh, thank you. And it's been a real pleasure to work with you as well. I mean, I've been a fan of 2020 Vision since the 90s when I was living in New York City and working at Dance Tracks. And I had the radio show Club 89 on
Wow.
89.1
I didn't
FM
know
and
either of
used to
those.
spin all your stuff. Yeah,
I love Dance
absolutely.
Tracks. That was my store. That's where I
That's
came.
the shop.
So maybe that was you. Okay, you were the
I was the
girl on
white
Dance
girl
Track.
working there. That was
Oh
me.
my gosh! Wow.
Yeah.
So you moved then to New York in the early 90s.
No, 1986.
86.
Yeah,
you're
I
in that.
moved to New York in 1986 from my native Massachusetts
Yeah.
because I went to university. I was the first member of my family to go to university. And I picked New York. I picked NYU because, well, it was cheaper at the time, number one, but they had one of the best radio stations in the country. And I had already done 4 years of high school radio
Wow.
from 1982 to 1986. And so when I went to New York, I went straight to the radio station, volunteered my services, and basically lived there for the next 4 years.
So you've always been radio. You just knew.
Always.
And what age
Yeah.
were you doing the radio in
I
Massachusetts?
started at 14, but I was really obsessed. I mean, I think one of the reasons I kind of really got into music in such a deep way is because the radio in Boston was really good. We have more colleges and universities than any other American city, which meant we had college radio. And you also had a great kind of demographic of people that were interested in more alternative sounds. And even the commercial station, WBCN, which was a freeform radio station that started the year I was born in 1968, they were kind of like soundtracked my life. And I started listening to this show called Nocturnal Emissions, hosted by Oedipus, like so 1980s.
Wow.
And that's where I would hear like The Cure and Brian Eno for the first time. And so it was the radio in Boston was probably one of the main reasons I do what I do now.
Wow, yeah, that's a lovely story to hear that people have come from radio, and it's quite often it's a story you hear a lot with the Detroit artists as well, with Electrifying Mr. Mojo.
Yes.
Yeah,
I've tried to find some of his shows and they're incredible, absolutely incredible.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that was your show. That show, was it Nocturnal Emissions?
Nocturnal Emissions was the one that I listened to. It's hosted by Oedipus.
And
Yeah.
it's always been a blend. But what was
Yeah.
interesting about those shows in the 80s was the electronic dance beats came very much from alternative music, and the bands you're mentioning like The Cure and Depeche Mode, and that it was very much a different entry point to dance music than coming straight into house or hip hop to house.
Totally. I mean, I was, of course, a huge fan of Blue Monday, a huge
Yeah.
fan of New Order and Joy Division. Saw New Order play at a very famous gig in Boston where there was a riot because they didn't do an
They didn't play.
encore.
They didn't
Yeah.
play Blue Monday.
Yeah, and then Peter Hook wrote about it in his book, and I've interviewed Peter a few times over the years, and mentioned this. But I saw people ripping seats out at the Opera House, because they didn't do an encore. But I got to dance on stage with the Smiths. For me, it was Murder. I mean, we had so many great bands that came through town because we had such a young, college demographic. So, British bands loved playing in Boston because New York, they'd have a great gig. LA, possibly. And in Boston, they'd always have a great gig. So I was quite lucky. I could go to Boston, I could go to Worcester, like the big stadiums. I saw Prince, Purple Rain, but I would also go see like Rush, the prog band, the Canadian prog band. So I was kind of into all different kinds of music. And then I started working in a record shop when I was 16, when I was still living in Massachusetts. So
And
even before I went to New York, I
you
was
had radio
already.
and record stores.
Exactly. It's crazy.
Mm.
So funny.
And then after university in New York in the early 90s, by that point, I guess, or late 89 you would have finished, I guess.
Yeah, 1990.
Yeah, I mean, that was, this is, okay, I'm staying here. This is incredibly vibrant, exciting time in New York. It was still affordable to live as an artist, as a young person, just about.
So it's just about,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I had tried to leave, actually.
Now,
I mean, I had lived in Japan for a short time in 1989. I was a radio DJ for a commercial station. And then after I graduated from NYU, I drove across country. I thought I was going to relocate in California, thinking everybody thinks I'm from California anyway. I know
Exactly.
people, Brits are always, "You're from California."
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, I'm an East
No.
Coaster. I'm a mouse.
Is it the
I'm
heck?
actually a mousehole, to be honest. I'm a mousehole." I felt so bad. I was interviewing Ron Trent on Zoom during the pandemic. And he goes, "My mother was born in Springfield, Massachusetts." I said, "Oh my gosh, my mom was born in Springfield, Massachusetts. You mean your mom's a masshole?" I'm like, "Did I just call Ron Trent's mom a masshole? I think I just did." That's a masshole
he
thing to
take it?
do. He did. We had a good laugh. I mean, he came to our last London loft party, so I think it's all cool. But yeah, so I did travel to California, and then I ended up traveling Central America. And I backpacked around for a few months. I just thought now is the time. And I actually landed a job while I was there to bring me back to New York.
Was that the dance tracks job?
No, this was, I used to produce syndicated radio shows for college radio stations, a show called Music View. And I started in 1991. I interviewed Nirvana the week
No
that
way.
Nevermind came out. They're
You are
in the
kidding me.
studio
Do you have
with
it?
me.
Do you have the...
Oh yeah, I do have it. It's all on DAT.
Yeah,
And,
that's fine.
So exactly. I have all
Well,
that
it's a
Brian
DAT
Eno,
split,
Pete
yeah.
Rock, Seal Smooth,
Really?
Gangstar. I mean,
wow.
I interviewed probably 50 to 100 bands, like at that time.
And you had that unreleased stats?
Blur, Oasis, My Bloody Valentine, Kevin Shields, Aphex Twin, Richard James.
Way.
I mean, literally. And I was an Anglophile as well, but I was interviewing American bands and the whole sub pop scene, and also like the whole Jesus Lizard scene and all that. I think was it from Minnesota? There were a lot of different scenes in America. But Whole Surfers were like my favorite
Yeah, I
band at the
love them.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw them, like Locust Abortion Technician was one of my classic albums. And so I was interviewing all these bands, but also getting into dance music because I started going to the Loft and to Shelter and to Save the Robots and Giant Steps. And then I started going to Louis Underground Network parties. And then, I just started going out a lot at night. And it was really the Loft probably that really, really turned me on to dance music, because it just sounded so different on that system. And also it was very deep and emotive. And, David was a hippie. He was 24 years older than me. I was 22, 23 at the time.
And how did you actually connect? What was the connection?
I was brought to the party by my friend Adam Goldstone, the late Adam Goldstone, who did stuff for
Name rings a bell.
Euphonics. He was an Anglophile. He was
Right.
over here quite a bit. He brought me to a party, and it was David's party. And I started going for maybe a year before I really approached David. I had a radio show called Soul School, and I wanted him to come up and do a guest DJ spot. And so he said he would agree, but he wanted to go out with me first. So we went out for drinks. So we just had this long conversation, really deep, about musical synchronicity, which is something I really believed in, and still do. How when you're on the same wavelength with people, like for instance, I'd be DJing at the radio station. I'd have one record queued up, not even ready to play. Answer the phone and someone would request a song that I'm just about to play. That would happen all the time. But also vice versa. When I'd be on the floor at the Loft, I'd hear David play a song, then I'd think, oh, this song would go really well next.
You hear it coming on.
And he would just play it.
Synchronicity, serendipity,
Totally,
two great words.
And then we became friends, and then he just one day blew me away by asking me to play some records with him. And this just kind of
So you
started
basically
like
opened.
that.
You opened.
No, it was one-on-one. Because, you can't really, because the equipment's so different. Each cartridge costs at that time $2,000, and he only had two. He was really not doing well financially. And so if one broke, there would be no party, or it'd be one turntable party, because he wouldn't have been able to even get them repaired. You'd have to send them back to Japan. And So the whole like, just using the Koetsus, and also you're not using a DJ mixer like a Bozak. You're using what we have in the other room, a Mark Levinson ML1, which is Phono 1, Phono 2. And also that's kind of how it was a nice way to get your feet wet, your toe wet, because he's guiding you as well. He's with you. So it's like, I remember the first song I played was the John's dub of Wax Van by Lola, which is
I don't know.
Arthur Russell.
Is it Arthur Russell? Okay.
And
Yeah.
it starts with hello. And it's like, and it's just so fun now that I think about it, because I didn't even plan anything, because you can't plan anything because you don't know what the song before you is going to be. And plus there's no headphones. And so you're taking this $2,000 cartridge. It was an inside cut, and you can't back cue on headphones and cue it up. It's all by eye.
Oh my gosh.
So that was, and it worked. I couldn't believe it. And then David just said, very good, Colleen. And then, we became friends, and then he asked me to play more and fill in or whatever. So
Nice.
yeah, no, we did the compilations together.
Story. I don't quite know where to go from there. It's just such a lovely starting point, isn't it?
Well,
Wow.
yeah, I feel really blessed. He was a great friend. A really great friend. I mean, I know he signifies a lot to a lot of people, and of course he does to me as well. But he was just a real person, and a real good person, and someone who, he is like a family member. He called me his daughter, and he was like my uncle. I have a great father. Well, my father's passed, but I guess kind of like a musical father. But he was just a great friend. I mean, he was here. He used to stay in this room sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. And then before our London loft parties, on Fridays we would do a whole listening session. He and I playing each other records we've just discovered, whether they're old or new.
Just it's kind of coming to 2000, 2001, I think, when you started releasing the Loft compilations.
1999.
99
Yeah, so it's the year I moved here. Basically, I did my own mix CD for Nervous Records back in 98. And it was like, I was really chuffed. I mean, you couldn't believe I had my own mix CD out. And then I started thinking about David's financial situation, and I thought, if he does a compilation, that could be a really good way for him to generate some green energy, and also to get his story out there. That's what he called it, green energy. And to get his story out there, because they were like more like hushed whispers. There was nothing really online. The internet was new. And so I said to him, you should do a compilation. And he said, I'll only do it with you.
Oh.
And I had been working with Newphonic because I used to help run Spiritual Life Music. We used to send a box of our promos to Newphonic, to the UK, and they would, promote it, and they would do the same with us. So I was playing the Newphonic releases, selling them, and also sending them to different DJs around the country. So we already had a relationship, and Dave Hill just happened to be in New York that weekend. So it's all kind of serendipitous, again, musical synchronicity.
Yeah.
And then I ended up moving here. So it all kind of worked out.
The parties, and you started some Loft parties in London following the release of the compilations.
Yeah, we had one compilation. We had one party with Newphonic at 93 Feet East in 2001. And it was a really fun party. By that time, I had been living here for 2 years, and almost everyone I knew in the UK was there. It was really wild. It was really fun, a really fun party.
And David was happy that you'd managed to recreate the room and the sound and the
sound wasn't exactly what
he wanted. Yeah.
Exactly. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the configuration was still pretty good. It just wasn't the right kind of audiophile equipment. David loved Klipschorns, which are 3-way horn-loaded speakers that were built in 1946. We have 2 in the other room. Yeah. And they're still in production today. And we have a very pure sound because they're horn speakers. So they're very passive in that sense. They're extremely efficient. You can get like sometimes 103 dB with 1 watt. And you can use very kind of, amplifiers. You can even run them on a 5-watt amplifier, but David would run them on 50-watt amplifiers, with all Class A sound system, like Class A amplifiers. And no compression, no EQ, He liked to use moving coil cartridges because they just have more dynamic, especially once they warm up. They're very different to what we usually use in the DJ world, which is moving magnet.
Yeah.
And so the sound is very different, but we set it up in a very similar way. I shouldn't say I wasn't setting it up at that time. But once we started our parties here in 2003, we made a decision after renting sound systems for a year and really not getting what David wanted. We made a decision to buy our own sound system. And that's when I really started to get more into audiophile sound because some of the equipment landed here. And then my husband and I started to buy more equipment and played around with valve amplifiers versus solid state and Classic Album Sundays kind of came out of that.
Well, tell us a little bit about Classic Album Sundays, because that's also another lovely long-running
Yeah,
project.
it's
It's been an
15
important
years.
part of
Yeah.
your life now.
15 years, I can't
15
believe
years.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Where did
you
it start? What was the initial station it was on?
well, I guess it wasn't a station, it was an event. So
Started as an event.
yeah. And at first, it probably started in the living room with friends.
Wow.
I was, people would come over on a Sunday. My husband's an amazing cook. I would say, pick an album, let's listen to it in the system. You might hear it differently. So friends would come over, he'd listen to Brian Eno or whatever. And a friend of mine, James, he said, this is kind of like a Classic Album Sunday. And the name kind of stuck in my head. Then Greg Wilson started a blog called Living to Music. Greg's a great writer and a friend of mine. And he said, Colleen, you got to do this. I'm picking an album one Sunday a month, and everyone's listening in their own homes. And then we hop on a chat group and talk about it afterwards. So it's like a remote record club. And so we did it. The second one he did was Dark Side of the Moon. And the people on the chat group, they knew I had a great sound system. Some of them are like, I'm so jealous. Colleen I'm sure this sounds so amazing. And I remember after that, I just said to Adam, I think this has to be shared. We have this great equipment, but people, it's expensive to buy and not everyone can do it. So I'd like to start an album club where I can bring this system in and people can really immerse themselves in an album. So it's kind of actually sort of started with Greg. And then he's like, I live in Liverpool.
Yeah. I love Greg. Greg's been a
love
big
Greg.
influence for me as well.
He's influenced so many people here.
Yeah.
And then he said, you're doing more events. He lives in Liverpool. So we split, but we're just kind of mutually supportive. I just talked to him yesterday. He's a great guy. And
because obviously you can't hear your system on the radio, so it has to be an event, really, doesn't it?
Totally, it's an event. Then I made them into podcasts because what happened pretty quickly, the BBC came along to the third one. They put it on BBC Breakfast and every single BBC platform, and all of a sudden I had to trademark the name. I had just started this not with a business plan, just more like, oh, this is a monthly. It should be done. I was losing money. I had to get a babysitter. We had to transport valve amplifiers and Klipschorns to a venue, my friend's pub, to the upstairs. It was like a real labor of love. No intention of it. It's just, I just knew it was a good idea. That's all I knew. And I kind of knew someone needed to do it. And my daughter had just started school too, and I hadn't DJ'd as much when she was really little. I think a lot of people forgot that I was still a DJ. So,
yeah, it must be hard. I mean, that's also an important part of your life. You had a daughter, and you had to raise your daughter, and still at the same time find ways where you could, scratch that creative itch and your music and express your music, express yourself. Yeah,
and
that's not always in a club environment.
And it's absolutely. And also at that time, there wasn't as much recognition of women DJs. I mean, if there was one DJ, a woman DJ on a bill, you can guarantee there wouldn't be two, unless it was ladies' night. That's the way it was, or on a roster. It was not like that. And if someone had a baby, very few DJs were having babies, so it was just like you're kind of out of sight, out of mind. But there's still people that looked out for me, and I still had some great things. David always did. Francois K always looked out. I did my last tour pregnant in 2004, playing the first Deep Spaces and playing in Detroit for Movement Festival in Chicago. So that was great. But then, it was kind of good. I was doing radio shows for Japan, but then I started producing more. I set up a writing studio in this room, and there was a really proper studio around the corner that I could go to and finish things off.
Is that still the same one you use?
No, now I work with someone else, and
Mm.
that studio is no longer there. And I got rid of my writing studio because I was doing original music then.
Mm.
I was doing I worked at a project called Wild Rumpus with Gary Lucas, who was in
Okay,
Captain
no.
Beefheart.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah, and he also co-wrote Grace with Jeff Buckley, and he's an old friend of mine from New York. So we did kind of more like a psychedelic album that brought in lots of stuff. Some of my favorite stuff from bluegrass to dub to Santana kind of sounds to kind of weird stuff. It was very experimental. And then I started doing a lot of
Yeah,
remixes. That's when I
yeah.
first really started properly remixing a lot. And,
And really understand and becoming your art form. And we were just
yeah.
chatting before as well. And there is, I mean, there's a certain line that's difficult to cross remixing when I was also doing a fair amount of remixes as 2020 Vision, is that people, it comes to a point where people wants to ask you to remix a classic song, and if that's the phrase that I always thought was the right one, was if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. I mean,
That's right.
so you managed to like take tracks. I suppose the first thing is the decision. Only take tracks that I've got a different interpretation in me. I can hear this going a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you're very respectful. If you want to deliver a remix, you quite often deliver a vocal, a dub. There's a couple of different interpretations, variations, and you're respectful, but you will put your own take on it. It's and the other thing that comes across for me especially is sound and the audiophile history that you've been talking about, the knowledge. You brought that into the studio because the sound is always such an important part of
It is.
your
Yeah,
work.
thank you for saying that. I remember David commenting on that as well when he was playing some of my remixes. I also work with great people. I'm not going to take credit for their engineering
No.
skills, but I have a great ear. And so I know also what sounds good and what doesn't. And I also learned what sounds good is because when you got a great sound system, he starts playing some of the 90s house records where like everything is hot and in the red
Mm.
on the production.
Huge 9
You
kick
can
drums
hear
taking all
it.
the space.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can hear it. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and the bottom taking up too much space.
Mm.
So I learned about more delicate EQing, and I ended up working with really great people. Darren Morris is a phenomenal engineer. He works with Ashley Beadle as
Yeah.
well, and he's a musician. And so he does the keys
Wow.
on a lot of the tracks. He's also so easy to work with, and I love working with him. He's part of Black Science Orchestra
Yeah,
now.
I actually, yeah, I did some tracks with Ashley, the early days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. So yeah, I met him a long time ago, actually.
He's a great
Yeah.
guy, but that was like
Mm.
when you asked me to do the Crazy P
Mm.
remix, I was first of all so honored. I played their first single, The Way We Swing, on paper
Did you?
in 1997. I sold them at Dance Tracks, played it on Club 89. I was a big paper music fan as
Yeah.
well. Um, And then, of course, I moved here, and then they added Danny into the mix, and that brought a whole other level. It kind of made them more
A band.
serious, a
A
real
band as
proper
well. A
band.
band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great songwriting, and great. I just love the way they produce. I mean, even their side projects like Ron Bass Jam and Hot Toddy,
Mm.
they're all great. Jim, great. I mean, they're just a talented group.
Mm.
And Danny,
I'm looking
too.
at now like Baron and Todd, kind of like Gamble and Half this, because it's nearly like a kind
I
of
know.
songwriting team that will of the ages. They what they pen now, because they're songwriters. What I realized after looking reminiscing and looking back on 2020 Vision, our output, we've got a lot of output, a lot of records over 30 years. When you look at Crazy P, you realize that their songs, and as you said, Danny would bring the vocals and a lot of the lyrics, and as well as her energy and the karate kicks and the live
Oh
presence.
my gosh, I mean the
And
live presence.
live presence, but they're songs that will last the test of time. They'll be
Absolutely.
here after you and me, and they're beautiful songs.
Well,
But you took Stop Space Return, and you really made your own mark on it. And the main thing that I think we all noticed was you changed the rhythm
oh
section.
yeah. Well, any remix I do, I change the bass usually. Once in a while, I'll keep the bass line, but usually I just change the whole thing, the bass line, and always the drums. And they're so good. Crazy P, Hot Toddy,
Yeah.
Ron Bass Jam. They have that kind of sleazy, slinky disco sound nailed. And you really can't do it any better. I play so many of their productions. And Stop Space Return was always a favorite, but I thought if I'm going to do this justice, I need to switch it to a different vibe. I don't want to compete with the original mix because,
You
you
can't.
know,
No,
you can't.
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't make it better. And I've been thinking a lot about my past and different rhythms. And I used to love the broken beat sound when I first moved over here. And my label, Bitches Brew, is distributed through Goya. So there's that. But that also kind of sort of came, obviously, from jazz, but it also had certain things that were reminiscent of electro, but also the whole freestyle movement, which I don't think was as big here. There's a few key songs. It developed in the Bronx. Actually, Louis Vega, when he was 14 years old, was playing a place, I think it was called the Devil's Nest. It was a freestyle club in the
Wow.
1980s.
And what did that mean?
It
What
was like freestyle was more of like a Latino, Puerto Rican, Dominican American, and kind of sound that they were bringing to dance music, and it was like the mid 80s. So one of the big ones is Shannon Let the Music Play.
Okay, that would be
Yeah, Lisa
the
and the
freestyle song.
Yeah, and Lisa and the Culture.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
Wonder
Oh,
If
I
I'd
love
Take
that.
You Home. That's
Yeah,
another
yeah.
one. No Sirrah, Summertime. There's a few. Those are three big ones that
Okay.
you would probably know. And so we've of course did this remix last summer. I finished it last summer. But what I noticed this year is Eli Escobar just put out a whole album with freestyle rhythms. I was like, wow, this is cool. Like a
The
year ago, I
synchronicity.
did this. Yeah, I was like, I know,
That's lovely to know because I didn't actually know that's where the
yeah,
beats were inspired from.
yeah, this is inspired from. I wanted something that wasn't straight four to the floor, just more
Which
like
was already
that.
there.
Yeah,
It's already there.
exactly. And then working with Downey's vocals,
Mm,
I actually kept most of them pretty dry.
mm.
I was really amazed when you get stems. I mean, I just did a Cure remix. You get the stems and you hear Robert Smith like singing with no reverb, and you go, "Oh my gosh, he sounds amazing." Same with Downey; she sounded great, and so I wanted to keep her vocals really up front and be respectful to the song, and it just
And
injects a
she loved
different
your
energy.
remixes. So I mean, it's important to kind of note that this, like you said,
Yeah.
it was done last summer, and the whole band loved your mixes,
Yeah.
and so did Danielle. So they,
It's such
it's
a
lovely feeling now after what's happened and she's passed to know that you had her blessing, and she really loved what you did with the track.
I know. I mean, when I heard that, I was really obviously
Moved.
moved.
Yeah.
And she was such a special person, and I feel quite lucky. We were on so many of the same bills, sometimes just as DJs, but sometimes as me DJing and Crazy P performing. And the last time I saw them perform was at Gala. I was on after them. And Danny had so much energy. And she looked and sounded fantastic.
Always
And she was just
new outfit every time.
new outfit. I think she was wearing a green outfit that time. I was like, wow, she looks incredible. All this energy. And she just brought so much vibes. But also she was just such a cool person to hang out with. Like we'd hang out backstage or
So
have a
fun.
catch up.
Yeah.
Fun and
Light and
real,
soul.
down to earth. But I think Mancunians are like that anyway. Salt of the earth. Some of the best. I think they just inherit a great sense of humor too. I'm like, gosh, I wish I was born there.
Yeah, it's in the water.
It's in the
You
water,
grew up, you've grown
exactly.
up on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm really thankful and honored to have had that
And
opportunity.
there's actually another thank you. I did also want to thank you. You did this lovely Balearic breakfast show where you basically dedicated, I think, the whole show really, and in your own inimitable way as usual. What I love about the Balearic breakfast, and it was it's such a foundation of the whole show, as from my understanding, is it's about the community, and you always mention this. You're saying, listen, this is not about me, it's not my show, this is a community, we're building something together, and you include people. Send me, it's requests, like you'll put it out there, you'll say, listen, what's your song, what I'd like to hear from your song, and not only we put it out there, but you'll play them, and you'll read them out, and it was just such a lovely thing. And you did that for Danny when after a passing, and you tell the whole story behind the track, and people would send in different tracks, right? And
Yeah.
you asked me for one. And I remember, so thank you for that. And I chose the Hot Toddy remix of Never Gonna Reach Me. And you told me that it did connect back to the Loft because David used to play
Yeah,
it
he
there.
played that one. He also played the still going dub of Caught Up as well.
I love that. Did he?
Yeah.
Also on 2020.
Yeah, I love that one
Wow.
too. Then I ended
And that's actually kind of a odder, rarer B-side.
Yeah, and still going. I remember all their productions.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, were so great as
Yeah.
well. And yeah, oh yeah, he loves that. And then I started playing it a lot too. Then I
Yeah.
finally had to put it away because I played it too much. You know, when you play a record, because it's like, I know this record works, and then you kind of lean on it a little too much, and you have to go, okay, I need to take that out of my box for a bit. So and just and it's just such a great record. I've played it so many times. It's so
I didn't know
good.
that.
Yeah.
So it's great to have all this, all this backstory.
Yeah.
And then, I think it's bringing it all together now. And you just mentioned the Cure. So you're there in the 80s listening to Nocturnal Emissions, and you're hearing Robert Smith and Cure songs like that. And you've actually recently remixed the Cure as well.
Yeah, I remember hearing The Walk for the first time in 1983.
The Walk was the one.
Yeah. And the thing I love about Robert's music, gosh, I'm on a first name basis with him. I just said Robert.
Yeah, hi, Rob. No, Rob, surely.
Me and Rob go way back.
Hey,
Anyways,
Robbie.
Hey, Robbie, yeah. Any case, what I loved about The Cure, and still do, is that you couldn't really describe them because they did pop. They did, the whole goth thing, which I loved all that, but I never considered myself a goth. But I did listen to Bauhaus, and I love Bauhaus.
I love Bauhaus.
Fellow Murphy.
Yeah, Fellow Murphy for sure.
Yeah, and
Danny Lash actually as well.
And Danny Lash as well. I loved Tones on Tail. I love Love and Rockets. I mean, that wasn't as gothy, but I loved all that stuff.
That was kind of my time as well, so I used to follow Love and Rockets a bit.
So I interviewed them when I was
doing.
Yeah.
So listen,
and Peter Murphy.
I'd like to know the answer to that question actually, because we did to all the interviews, they're unreleased, and you have them on that.
I don't have all of them.
Wow.
When I left that job, I just took some doubts with me, and I spoke to my old boss. I had to see if he has any more, if he put them back up on a hard drive.
But you have quite a few.
I have quite a few.
And they're
in
the
vaults.
They're not
in their vaults, yeah.
Oh, that would be a lovely project.
Well, it's interesting because now I'm interviewing bands the second time. Like I interviewed Primal Scream when Screamadelica came out. Then I interviewed them again, like decades later, for the same album. I just interviewed Graham Massey for Classic Album Sundays for Excel, for 808 States Excel. I interviewed them when it came out. Wow. So it was it's kind of funny. I'm going
a lifetime
back.
apart.
Exactly.
I've had kids, they've grown up, they've left home.
I know, we're in a different country now. It's like all these things. So it was really, really interesting. But back to The Cure, it was such a great. I couldn't believe it when I found out he was looking for me. He knew some of my remixes.
It was a direct.
Yeah, he
request.
emailed me directly.
Oh, wow.
He emails in all caps. He controls everything.
Serious?
Yeah.
In all caps. What is it? Because he hasn't got used to
Love
it.
Robert.
But it's not a shouty thing.
It was like lovely, and it was such a joy because I'd always been a fan, always respected him, and and he did his own remixes. Like The Trees. I love that song. There's the Cure album, Mixed Up, which is all the I think it's Fascination Street, all these great remixes. And he would do some of those remixes. I think
I didn't know that. Wow,
I think In the Trees is his. I think The Trees is
love
his
In the
as
Trees,
well.
yeah.
And I love that song so much. I've played it at the Loft before. That's so much. I've played The Cure at the Loft. I mean, I know it's crazy, but it went down.
But that was the whole point, wasn't it? You could.
I could, exactly. And I just think it's beautiful. I remember I played it once at Deep Space, and Francois was like, "Which mix is this?" So that's the thing that they've always had that dance music kind of thing going on as well. So it was a real honor, and I was glad to do it with Joe Goddard and Al Doyle because I've been working with them on a new project.
Right. And what's that going to be?
Well, we've done 2 tracks already, originals. Just do one more, and then we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also work with Lou Hader too, as well. So we're, it's fun making new music.
Also part of the Greco-Roman family, actually.
Yeah, exactly. She is.
Yeah.
And it's fun making new music with people in a collaborative way in a really great studio as well.
Yeah.
With like all these amazing keyboards and an incredible desk, and they just work fast. And so, they're pros. And so you just kind of, let's throw ideas in and see what happens, and it's just great. It's really fun. It's a really fun project. And
I also love your mild life
oh,
mixes.
thank
Yeah, I
you.
think there's something I'm trying to kind of get a thread here. It's kind of forming in my mind where you really are the kind of counterpoint and the conduit, you could say, of that the bridge between that alternative scene and dance music in a way. And I'm just wait a minute. There's The Cure, then there's Mild Life, there's Joe Goddard, there's Hot Shit,
Did a certain
there's a certain
ratio.
ratio,
David
and it's
Holmes.
wow. So
So yeah,
it's really this kind of
that's
area
one
of
side.
alternative
Yeah.
music, isn't it? Which
Yeah.
I think given the story, the life story basically you gave us about, all kind of really makes sense. It's kind of a beautiful full circle in a way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I feel lucky because my Cosmodelica remixes, there's kind of three styles. There's one that's
Yeah.
more soulful or housey or disco-y, like
Mm.
what I do with Crazy P. There's some that are more down-tempo and more Balearic. I've done like Phenomenal Handclap Band, Phil Myson's Cantoma Project, Saint Etienne, just more
Rapture.
down-tempo. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's more up-tempo.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then there's the indie side too.
Okay, yeah.
So the kind of indie dance.
Mm.
And I'm really lucky that I can kind of juggle all these musical balls, so to speak, and to be able to get the opportunity to do that. I don't have like a cookie cutter production sound. I really try to serve the song, like
I've
to
never heard that phrase
truly
before.
serve
Cookie
the
cutter
song.
production sound.
Well, certain and some of them are great. There's certain DJs, I don't want to mention their names, but I play a lot of their stuff, but I know what the style is going to be, and that's not a bad thing. It works. It can really work. But for me, it's just not like that. I think my whole musical output and curation since it started in '82.
Curation, sorry.
Yeah, curation. There you go. It started in 1982, so it's always been really broad musically, and
This must be lovely. That's after a lifetime in music, that's all coming together into this very lovely place you're in with all of that.
I know.
Everything we mentioned.
I know.
Still
Classic
there.
Album Sundays, Balearic
Which is
Breakfast.
all,
Yeah. Yeah.
a very busy week, but but a lovely week.
It is. I feel blessed. I mean, I'm working and I'm loving what I do.
Yeah, and that really
And they're
comes
all
across.
different
It really
things.
comes across.
Yeah, I think I hope it does.
It does.
I hope it does. I try to put my heart into things,
Mm.
and I think that hopefully people feel that.
I think people definitely feel that, yeah, and you can see that from your fan base and just the interaction as well. Even like what you put out, it's just the positive messaging. It's just so important, and we do live in an incredibly hard times in a world full of division, polarization, and basically it's hatred. And then love is the message. Love saves the day becomes even more powerful statements. It is fundamentally about love as a powerful tool, that when we and there's not enough of it, and I very much felt that as your driving force,
Yeah, it is definitely, and also in the music itself
and the music
too.
itself, yeah.
So it's David turned me and many people on to a book called The Life, Energy, and Music. And it's about using music as a healing force, and how certain music can do that and certain music can't, or certain musicians can and certain musicians can't. Certain conductors can, certain conductors can't.
Wow.
This was written way back.
I'll read that.
But they could probably say certain DJs do, certain DJs don't. I can't put my finger on it and tell you exactly what it is, but it's a feeling. And I hope that comes across, when I'm playing or when I'm doing a radio show or doing a remix or a tune, that there's some kind of energy in there that people feel, whether it's galvanized by and it's not just aesthetic. I think, it's like you could play things that are very, very cool at the time, but then they don't sound as cool later. And you just realize it's more about a time and place that record really worked because it was a part of a whole other sound. But maybe it was just trying to be cool and actually lost its reason, its raison d'être, kind of thing. But, and David really taught me a lot about that. A lot of our listening, I'd play him a track that I was into at the time by a trendy producer, and he'd say, sounds like one long intro. I go, oh my gosh, it does. So he really taught me to hear differently. I mean, I had good ears anyways, but he kind of definitely helped on that side as well.
Wow. What a wonderful life. Well, just thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks for coming all the way to my
Yeah.
record room again, filming on the
I,
hottest day of
I,
the
I
year. I
love this
seem to
rug.
do this every year.
This rug is
Oh, it's my
I've seen you
father's.
spin a rug.
Yeah.
I've seen you spin
Cutting up a rug.
cut up a rug. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
That's my dad's.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
lovely.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a special room for sure. I want to hear that other sound as well. Now
Oh,
we might have to
yes.
ask you to do that.
Turn the amp on. It's so hot. We can
Yeah.
it's a Class A amplifier, so it throws off heat.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
anyway.
you. Thank you so much.